I am the Education Director at Ivy Creek Foundation, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to this Ivy Talk, and that is in conjunction with Mr. Ed Brooks of the Yancey Community Center. I would like to thank Mr. Brooks for all of his hard work helping to bring this event together today. He deserves a special thank you and a round of applause. This event could not have taken place without him and his contacts. So thank you, Ed, for all of your help with this. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ed.
No, I said my pleasure, that's all. You guys are great.
I am excited to introduce our speaker today, Dr. John W. Boyd. Dr. Boyd is a fourth generation farmer, as well as one of America's most effective defenders of civil rights. He's been featured in the Washington Post, 60 Minutes, Nightline, CNN, and as ABC News Tonight's Person of the Week. He is a past nominee for the NAACP's highest honor, the Springarn Award, and currently ranks as one of Ebony Magazine's most influential African Americans. In 1995, Dr. Boyd founded the National Black Farmers Association after encountering the U.S. Department of Agriculture's discriminatory practices firsthand and meeting many more Black farmers who shared this experience. Dr. Boyd soon led NBFA members in a march on the White House, and he went on to meet with President Clinton and to testify before Congress. The plight of Black farmers had caught the nation's attention, but Dr. Boyd's pursuit of justice continues to this day. He currently lives in Baskerville, Virginia, where he continues to work on his farm, and we are so excited to have him as our speaker today. Before we get started, I'd like to just cover a few housekeeping items. This talk is being recorded and will be posted on our website in the next few days, so you can share it with folks who may not have been able to attend. Also, please mute yourself if you have not done so. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and we will answer them at the end of our presentation. So I would like to turn it over to Dr. Boyd now so that he can get started with his amazing talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, and it's certainly a pleasure to be with you all on this Sunday afternoon. As we celebrate Black History Month, I think this is an opportune time to talk about the history of the Black farmers, not only in Virginia, but in the United States. And I would like to thank you and all of your colleagues for reaching out and inviting me. You know, you can go all around the world and talk to people, but when you're invited back to people that were a part of your beginning work and part of your journey, the way that some of you guys were who invited me here. So it's very, very appreciative from me from the bottom of my heart. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of the watchers, and hopefully they will have some questions after the talk. The plight of Black farmers, you really can't talk about it without going back to America's history. Some of it kind of ugly with a black eye, from slavery, where Blacks were brought to the country in chains and shackles and slave ships, and only the strong survived. We went on to be sharecroppers. You know, at the turn of the century, there was over 1 million Black farm families here in the United States. 1 out of 14 were Black farmers. So we made up a huge population. At the turn of the century, we were tilling 20 million acres of land here and mostly in the southeastern corridor of the United States. If there was a footprint of slavery there, they were Black farmers. So many people don't know how Blacks accumulated land in the first place. It was after the Civil War when there was a turmoil with then Abraham Lincoln, and where many of the South did not want to succumb to Lincoln and his leadership, and he gave him a period of time to exchange those currencies. Many in the South refused to do that, and they lost huge fortunes, where many blacks remained on those plantations, and white plantation owners sold the land to those black farm families to stay on and continue farming. That's how we accumulated land in the first place. So then at the turn of the century, we started losing it. Like I said, 1 million black farm families strong, and then tilling 4.5, down from 20 million acres to 4.5 million acres. And then from 1 million black farm families down to today's numbers of 50,000 black farmers. I formed and founded the National Black Farmers Association really in the 1980s, and continued its work for a very, very long time. And I founded it with 5 original board members, Linwood Brown, Welch's Long, Sylvester Warren, and a few others were very, very key organizers in the Black farmers movement. Many of us had experienced discrimination, just like I did at the United States Department of Agriculture. I'm a 4th generation farmer from Mecklenburg County, Virginia, which is right on the Virginia-North Carolina borderline. And if you've ever traveled Interstate 85, we're just about the last exit on 85 before you enter into North Carolina. My farm still fronts along the historic Roanoke River. If you look at the map, so if you look at I-85 and the Roanoke River, you're looking at my farm where I'm sitting at today. So my family has a rich history of farming in Virginia. And I'm so proud that I got to spend some time with both of my grandparents, Thomas Boyd and Martha Boyd on my dad's side, owned land that I still have a portion of today. And my mother's parents, their names were Lee and Ruth Robinson. They both died as sharecroppers, and I got to spend some time with them. And believe it or not, they were like many blacks in Southside Virginia who sold bootleg whiskey to make it, to raise their children, and they farmed. So I got to see what that lifestyle looked like. People who worked hard and had to do what they had to do to raise their children and make ends meet with Lee and Ruth Robinson, my grandparents. And I also got to see what a deacon looked like who walked down and opened the church on Sunday. That was my dad's father, Thomas Boyd. And I learned a lot about the way that life is and how it should be as well. My grandfather, Thomas Boyd, taught me that the land knows no color. It never discriminated against anyone, that people do. The landless culture is a powerless culture. If you don't own any land, you don't have any power. I can leave my poor old raggedy farm to my 15 children, but I can't leave my PhD to my children. These are things that Thomas Boyd, my dad's father, taught me about the pride of land ownership. He slept with the deed to his farm underneath his mattress. That's how serious he was about land ownership. Many blacks knew that the land was their way of making a living. It just wasn't land ownership, but it was a way to take care of your children. It was a source of food. It was work. It was everything, and it represented your family name in the community. So where the Boyd family lived and so on and so forth. And my grandfather's farm was part of the historic Boyd plantation that runs along the Roanoke River. So a lot of history there. And I just want to kind of fast forward a little bit to how I bought my first farm in the 80s from another black farmer by the name of Russell Sally. I like to call names so people can look the names up. History as well. Russell Sally was really a handicapped black farmer. He only had one arm, but he was a very talented and skilled farmer. And when I approached him about buying the farm, he asked me one question. He says, "Are you going to work it?" And I told him, "Yeah." He said, "You're young. I'm going to sell you this farm." He said, where are you going to get money from?" I said, "I don't know. Where are you getting money from?" He said, "Well, the Farmers Home Administration." He said, "But good luck with them folks. They don't like black people." And he said, "But I'll make the introduction." And he did. And I was a three-letter man in high school, and basketball, football, and baseball. And many of my friends that played sports with me were white guys. So I thought, and from a holistic standpoint in this country, we were heading in the right direction on race relations, based on how, we were, how I was raised and how we were doing in high school. But I walked into the Farmers Home Administration, and it was like walking back in time, where this county supervisor, the person who was in charge of making loans for the government, USDA. And I want people to know that watching this, I've always had the question, well, why do black farmers end up at USDA? USDA is the largest agricultural lender in the world. They lend more direct money in rural America than all of the banks put together. So there's a lot of resources running through the United States Department of Agriculture, from housing programs to farm operating loans, farm equipment loans, farm purchase loans. All of these loans are run through now what's called Farm Service Agency. They changed their name in the 90s, but it was at the beginning, it was called the Farmers Home Administration. And I walked in, and this county supervisor, who I thought just hated me, it turns out he hated black people, period. All of us would be in the hallway, and he would only see black farmers on Wednesday. So we named it Black Wednesday. We would all be sitting in the hallway. We all knew each other, but we wouldn't dare talk about the way that this gentleman was talking to us, in a downward manner with the door open, speaking downward to senior statesmen in the communities, these black leaders. Some were deacons, some were ministers, and one or two even held local offices. But the way that this guy was talking to them was like they were nobody. He was calling them boy, and like I said, I wasn't from the '60s, so I wasn't used to that. And I was the youngest guy in the hallway, and all of the other black farmers were much, much older, but I had a whole lot of respect for them. And when a white farmer would come in, he would bring the white farmer in while I was sitting there during my loan processing time with him, when I thought he should be processing my application. And this one white farmer came in, his name was Earl, that's all I could remember. And the lending officer passed Earl a farm operating loan check for $157,000 right there in front of me. And they talked pleasantries and all of these things. And I was literally sitting there in front of him begging for $5,000 to plant and harvest my crop, which he had already told me he wasn't going to lend to me, but I was still trying to talk him into it. And they said pleasantries, and they was going to meet at a local steakhouse in South Hill. And Farmer Earl was on his way out the door. And Mr. Garnett says, Earl, I need you to come back in here sometime next week and fill out the paperwork, because I just used last year's numbers to grant you the loan. So here it was. This man had never even filled out an application, but he found a way to get him $157,000 farm operating loan. In the 80s, a whole lot of money. And I was literally begging him for a $5,000 operating loan, which he had already told me he wasn't going to do. This man spat on me. He said he accidentally missed his spat can on his desk. He spat tobacco juice. So if you're up north, you say spit, and if you're in the south, you say spat or whatever. It was one of the most degrading things that I would say ever happened to me. He tore my application up while I was sitting there in front of him, and said he wasn't going to lend me any of his money And if I didn't learn how to talk to him, I wasn't going to get any farm operator. He ran them. And in fact, he told me he was the next thing to God in Mecklenburg County. And I told him, I said, Mr. Garnett, I don't know what God looked like. I wasn't the religious man I am today. I said, but I can promise you, he don't look nothing like you. Is what I told him in the office. And the day he spat on me, he said some 4-letter words, and I said some 4-letter words back. And it was ugly. It was ugly. That's the way I'm going to have to describe it to you. But I'm telling you these stories because that's my own personal story. And many Black farmers endured far worse what I found out in the South. So what started out as a 5-member organization today represents 116,000 members in 46 states. And I met just about everybody from former President Jimmy Carter on up through the Bushes, the Reagan. I met with all of these presidents in the White House. Just an amazing journey, talking about the plight of Black farmers. And the whole time we were filing lawsuits, we started out in the state of Texas, and the lawsuit failed in every federal courthouse in the South. And by the time I got to Richmond, Virginia, Judge Thomas Flannery said he had never seen so much brutal and out front discrimination described in this complaint. But Mr. Boer's attorneys failed to tie the discrimination to his actual complaint. And I told the other farmers that was in the group with us, if we failed in Washington, D.C., that we would have no choice but to go through the administrative process at USDA, which is a long, drawn-out process. And I walked into the courtroom that day, and Judge Paul Friedman was the judge overriding the case. And he said, I want to hear more about this discrimination that Board and others are describing in this complaint. And I knew that there was something different about this judge because every other federal court told us why we shouldn't be in court and why we couldn't sue the government and so on and so forth. But this judge said he wanted to hear more about the discrimination that was in the laid out in the complaint. And keep in mind this 10, 11, maybe 12 years that went by, the statute of limitations had ran out on all of our cases. And Judge Friedman said he would allow the case to be heard if we were able to lift the statute of limitations. So I went to Congress to do that, and I finally got it passed in the mid-90s. And then we received the settlement after I had a meeting with former President Bill Clinton in 1999. That settlement was for $1 billion for Black farmers to receive $50,000 in 12.5 for taxes, the largest settlement in history for Black people. 83,000 Black farmers came after the filing deadline. Judge Friedman said if Congress would allow those cases to be heard, he would allow it. I went back to Congress again and lobbied for that. It took another decade. And former Senator Obama was the lead sponsor of that bill. And believe it or not, Senator Joe Biden was the co-sponsor. Little did I know both of those gentlemen would both become president during that time period. So that passed in 2008, allowing the Black farmer, 83,000 Black farmer cases to be heard based on its merit. And then after it passed, allowing the cases to go forward in court, they said, you're going to have to go back to Congress because there's no money allotted to pay the settlements. So I went back to Congress again and lobbied for 2 more years for the Claims Remedy Act of 2010 that President Obama signed into law on December 8th, allowing $1.25 billion to be paid out to Black farmers, and those cases were finally heard. During this whole 30-year span, I was asking for debt relief. We did not get injunctive relief in either of the settlements, which merely means land in inventory or the debt relief measure that was asked for in both of those federal complaints. So I began to go to Congress to do that. It was in the 2016 Farm Bill. It was in there, and they took it out in what's called conference, when both the House and Senate come together and have a discussion. So they took it out. And then Senator Cory Booker and Ralph Warnock last year stuck it into the COVID relief spending bill that awarded Black and other farmers of color $5 billion in debt relief. So I was elated that these things are finally, the debt relief measure finally came into law. And shortly after, white farmers began to sue us in federal court in 12 different complaints, saying that Black and other farmers of color receiving the debt relief was problematic to them, and they thought it was reverse discrimination. So the cases were blocked by Florida court and by a Texas court, and that's where the case stands right now. So I'm in 12 different cases. I had to hire attorneys for all 12 of those cases, and so it's been an uphill battle there. And also just want to touch on the issue of PepsiCo, because people think farming, it's just USDA. It's not. We need contracts the way everybody else does. And PepsiCo, after we raised the issue about having Aunt Jemima on the pancake box, that we thought it was offensive, PepsiCo immediately reached out and said that they wanted to work with the National Black Farmers Association and grant some contracts to qualified growers around the country, which I thought was great news. So we had these long talks with PepsiCo for a year and a half. And then this January, they said they want to have a conference, a Zoom call, just like we're doing here today, people, to say that, to discuss next steps. And I got on the Zoom call, and PepsiCo says, well, we decided not to grant the contracts to Black farmers, and we're going to be moving in a different direction. So here we met all of the qualifications, from soil samples to the ability to deliver and locating farmers to their closest buying station. And they agreed to start with the commodity potato. So PepsiCo has everything from Starbucks label to Lay's potato chips to Fritos. They buy sugar, they buy potatoes, they buy corn, all of the things that Black farmers grow throughout the southeastern corridor of the United States. That's some of the treatment, people, that I still believe is totally unfair. And for Fortune 500 companies that make those kind of commitments, you have to, as my grandfather Thomas Board says, when you give a man your word, John, it's all you have. Make it good. And if you can't make it good, you tell them why you can't make it good. That's how I was raised by my grandparents, to stand by, what you say and make it factual, people. And PepsiCo went back on its word. And it's for Black farmers in this country, I want people to know, if a white farmer qualifies at USDA, the top 10 subsidy getters receive $1 million per farmer and the U.S. Farm Subsidy Program, which is a grant. It's not a loan, people, that you, the taxpayer, are funding that. The average subsidy to a Black farmer is $200. So the top 10% receive $1 million at USDA in the Farm Subsidy Program. The average subsidy to a Black farmer is $200. 387 days to process a Black farm loan request, less than 30 days to process a white farm loan request. These are USDA statistics, people, not mine. Really, really stagnant and disparate figures that I'm laying out here, factual figures. I'm here today to tell you during Black History Month, America can do better America can do better. We all can do better in this country. As a civil rights person, I believe we're at an all-time low in race relations in America because we won't have the real discussions that need to be had. I can ride right up 58 and 85, and I can show you the Confederate flag flying higher than the United States flag in this country.
Dr. Boyd, you're frozen.
He's in rural Virginia.
Dr. Boyd, maybe if you turn your video off for just a second, it'll come back. Bear with us just a second, folks, please. Sorry.
To everyone, Dr. Boyd's farms are in several different locations. So he is speaking to us from one farm and his wife is at another. So she is going to call him to see if she can have him to turn off the video as you suggested, Susie. And hopefully we will get him back on. But while we're waiting, I think we've heard a lot. And I would just say to the group that is assembled, like, what are some of the, just initial questions or comments that you may have from just what Dr. Boyd has shared thus far? Dr. Boyd, is that you? Back? Not quite. Would anybody like to just kind of, speak up first and just, have some immediate questions or comments?
Well, I wanted to say, before this started, Dr. Boyd had shared an article with me that just came out today. And so if you look in the chat, it's the very first comment in our chat today. We do have some folks that have their hands up, Ed, so I'll let you take
No, go ahead. You go ahead, Susan. I'm going to make sure that I can keep correspondence here so we can get him back on. So,
Christy, what is your question?
I think my question has to do with the link you shared, something about Ukraine.
No, it's thedailycoast.com, and it's the name of the article is how many white farmers have been spit on or called the word.
My question was just the video that I was watching on the Facebook page where they say the American farmers would have to assist Ukraine or something. I don't understand. If something happens over there, like, don't they have enough trouble of their own over here? I don't understand.
I mean, here, let me, I'll share what the article looks looks like, because when I read the article earlier, it didn't talk about Ukraine.
Oh no, it's not this article. My question, I thought the link you just shared was about that news I was watching yesterday. That's what my question is about, the news report I was watching on the farmers page, the Black Farmers Facebook page.
Oh,
Wait.
we'll have to let Dr. Boyd answer that. I'm not.
Yeah, just a comment. He can make a comment about
it. Can she ask the question one more time?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was watching this post that was made on the Facebook Black Farmers page, talking about American farmers would have to assist Ukraine if they were attacked.
Yes.
Like, don't they have enough problems of their own year over year as Black farmers? What is the role of Black farmers in that? That's my question. Thank you.
I think what she's alluding to is the article about the comments made by Secretary Vilsack, that he thought that a war would be good for American farmers for grain and so on and so forth. And I was saying that, no war is good.
Yes.
And, you have to look at the children. These are people's children that's going to war, soldiers. The loss of life is never good for America. So I was totally disagreeing with what Secretary Vilsack was saying. You should never equate the ability to sell something during the height and peak of war versus the possible loss of life, is the point I was trying to make.
That's it. I got it. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Dr. Boyd, you froze right as you were talking about, sadly, Confederate flags flying higher than the American flag.
Yes, and what I was trying to say is that we have to find a way to bring America back together. And I believe that there's so much hate, especially in rural America. We need to tell Donald Trump, former president, that he lost here, but they still have his yard signs up and his paste boards are nailed up on his bonds. That's the type of division, that I'm clearly speaking to. During his presidency, I've never seen so much heightened hate and division on race relations. And there has to be a way to bring this country back together. And I believe that love is always greater than hate, and forgiveness and redemption, the power of redemption and forgiveness is far more greater than hate and division. We got to find a way to bring this country back together, people.
Do you think that there is a way that we could strengthen community bonds to help bring us back together?
I think that we really have to start with our own families and our own communities, and start having these type of come home to Jesus discussions. People, I think we dance around race, and if you look at me, I'm 6 foot tall, 240 pounds, and darker skin and a baritone voice, but don't judge me on that. Come to my farm and judge me on my character and my ability to farm. For 39 years, I've been doing something right. My daddy done something right, and my grandfather done something right. Art is an art and skill set to farming, just like it is to anything that you do, and you have to be good at it. I believe that I'm a good farmer. I'm a diligent farmer, and I give it all I got, people. But don't say I can't get the loan because of the way I look, or don't mistreat me because of the way I look. And for PepsiCo, the same way. We want the same contract that you're providing to qualified white farmers, not a word different. We want those same contracts provided to eligible and qualified Black farmers to deliver goods. If that's what we want. We want the fair opportunity to either make it or fail. And you know what? If I can't meet the qualifications of that contract once you award it to me, then you got reason to say you're going in a different direction and you don't want to do this. But to not do it at all and then say you're going to continue to contract with these people, but won't be none for you and the members of your organization. That's what they said, people. I believe that that's wrong, and it shows where we are in race relations with these Fortune 500 companies of bullies, and they really step down on, in this case, Black people who they feel that they can't defend themselves. People should stop buying PepsiCo products until they come to the table and treat us fairly. And as it goes for the white farmers who sued us in 12 different complaints, as you heard me giving my speech here, my presentation to you, 3 decades I was asking for debt relief in the Washington Post and the New York Times, Associated Press. Not one white farmer came to me and said, well, board, I got a problem with Black farmers getting debt relief. Not one white farmer contacted me and said they had a problem with it. The minute that they found out that it was real and that the resources, the debt relief was going to be awarded to 14,000 Black and other farmers of color, they didn't call me. They went straight to federal court to block it. In my 39-year career, I've never went to the federal court to say that white farmers who are qualified for a certain program shouldn't get it. What I did was I used the courts to address all of the horrific discrimination that you heard me talk about for the past hour. So I believe shame on them, and it's part of the conversation that's not happening with Black farmers and large-scale white farmers in corporate America. So those are the farmers that are receiving, and it was white farmers who was getting the debt relief the whole time, and it was Black farmers who wasn't. We were getting farm foreclosure notices and pinned up on our door where we had to pay the whole balance in full within 30 days. And under 1951S, there are so many programs, so many opportunities that the government couldn't do before they actually foreclosed on you. White farmers were getting debt relief with ease, and Black farmers wasn't. And that's why I turned to the courts and Congress to remedy it. And after I'd done that, white farmers are now blocking us with 12 complaints. And I didn't add that these are very, very conservative judges and courtships that they selected. They selected these things in a strategic manner. The former Ag Secretary in Texas was one of the leaders. So here you have an Ag Secretary suing us in federal court. So what is he doing in his state to help Black farmers is my question to him. So instead of helping farmers in his state, he sued us in federal court. I believe it was wrong. I believe it's wrong, and it's not reverse discrimination. Nobody's discriminating against white farmers. The doors are still open for them to get debt relief. They can walk in today, and they probably get it. There is no reverse discrimination. And as you read in that story I shared with you earlier, I believe many of the white farmers don't know what discrimination is because they never experienced it.
Does Virginia have any programs to support African-American farmers that's like on the state level and not on the national?
I think that, and something that I worked with former Governor Ralph Northam on, that I spent some time with him. I thought that Virginia could do a better job at working more directly with Black farmers and getting more direct resources to the farmers. What you hear about is a lot of grant programs that are administered by a lot of times with organizations that don't have a direct fit or don't have the direct connection with Black farmers. So I think that that's been a problem where the state could work with the National Black Farmers Association, an organization that has and represents the farmers. So that's something that we could improve on. I do think that there's some programs I know that the state is trying to work with Virginia State. I'm not sure about the new governor who was sworn in here last month. I haven't had any opportunity to visit with him, but I'm hopeful. And people need to understand one thing about me. I'm always hopeful. I'm always optimistic in this country because all of the things that I raised during my talk, America is still one of the most greatest countries in the world. And that's why I said in my statement that America can do better, because I know it can. We have to show the world that that we can do better on race relations, and how are we going to show these other countries how it's done if we're not practicing what we preach right here in America. So absolutely, I think state can do better, and absolutely USDA can do better, and we have to do better. And and also to address your question, we have some web pages. www.johnboydjr.com is my personal web page about most of the issues that I've been working on. The National Black Farmers Association.org for a lot of our program incentives that we're working on. We have a scholarship program that is going to be announced, I think, tomorrow. They can look on the webpage to get that. And we also have a historic webpage, www.blackfarmers.org, that has all of the history that I spoke about today about Black farmers.
Dr. Boyd, there's a few questions in the chat. If you're ready for those.
Yes, I am.
The first one says, I'm originally from West Africa and grew up in that village farming setting. Question, is there any collaboration between Black farmers in America and those in Africa and worldwide?
I would say there's a lot of room for improvement there too, especially with import, export. I think that there's a lot of opportunities that we can be doing with Black farmers. And in the early 2000s, I spent a lot of time visiting countries in Africa, Zimbabwe and Kenya and others to develop mentorships and partnerships where we wanted to bring Black farmers who were skilled in certain areas of commodity to African countries to show them some of the techniques here and also to learn from them. We did have some contracts with some African countries. We had a Cuban contract with the country Cuba for $20 million to supply grains, and that was terminated under the Bush administration. And a lot of people think it should be pretty easy, but there's also always steps and hurdles to cross. But with that said, we're open to it, and I would like to see a lot more of that to come in the coming years.
Thank you for that. The next question in the chat box is, did PepsiCo share what direction was, or was that the vague response you received?
It was a vague response, but I asked a question. Was the direction you're going in is the same direction you've been going in, which would be white farmers? All of PepsiCo's contracts are with white farmers. I don't know if I laid that out there or not, but they are, and that's what they told me. And they a year and a half ago said that they wanted to make sure that Black farmers receive some of these contracts. So they never said what direction they're going in, but they said it wouldn't include the National Black Farmers Association and its members. And for me, as the head of the organization, they don't see how that sounds. Where these companies release all of these diversity statements every year. You can go on their website and they say, we're doing this with diversity, we're doing that with diversity. But when does the diversity, reach the person that or persons that it should be reaching? In this case, with PepsiCo, Black farmers, they get an F. They get an F from me, and I can tell you, I'm not going to drink any more Pepsi until they come to the table and work out something on a contractual standpoint with Black farmers. We have to make it, as I spoke about earlier, a level playing field. I don't want a word different in the contract. I want the same contract that they have, and give me the ability to deliver. And then if I don't deliver, then you have a right to say you're going in another direction.
Is there a theme weaved into the fabric of this lack of support that leans towards conservative leadership, or is it presently equal?
Well, I can tell you that discrimination in this country at the United States Department of Agriculture happened on the hands of both Republicans and Democrats. The two settlements that I spoke about in 1999 happened under former President Bill Clinton. And the second settlement, as you heard me speak about, happened under former President Barack Obama, called the Claims Remedy Act of 2010. And there were meetings that I had with Republican and Democrat. And I would like to say the best meeting I had in the White House, conversation-wise, was with former President George Bush. I had a great meeting with him, but he didn't help me fix it. So the most knowledgeable president was when I was a young teenager in Future Farmers of America, meeting Jimmy Carter on his way out of office. He knew everything about farming. He knew the history of sharecroppers and all of these things. So he was very, very knowledgeable of it. And so the answer to the question is discrimination happened both on Republican and Democrat, but the two settlements came from a Democratic administration. And Claims Remedy Act of 2010 failed 11 times in the Senate before it passed. So that should tell you. And it was a real tight demographic breakdown with Republicans and Democrats. And we've gotten worse since 2010. Now, we can't get anything done in the Senate. It is so divided, Republican and Democrat. Something has to happen in this country where we can move the agenda for the American people. And right now we're failing at that.
Here's a really good question. Would you expand on what the average citizen can do to aid with the issues?
Yes, they can get involved. You don't have to be a Black farmer to get involved, people, and support. This is a mere issue of right and wrong. 116,000 members. We have 50,000 full-time Black farmers in this country. Some of the others are part-time, but most of our membership are people who support, people like you. We have to have the involvement of the American people in order to save the Black farmer in this country. And right now we're facing extinction. And what bothered me for many years, when animals are facing extinction, the bald eagle, the rockfish, the brown bear, the black bear, Congress immediately steps in and put laws in place to protect them until their numbers come up. They can do the same thing for the oldest occupation in history for America, which is Black farmers, the oldest occupation people. We've got to put some laws in place to protect them and make sure we have a new and next generation of farmers, something that the National Black Farmers Association has been working diligently to do. Invest back into more young people, and we have to find a way to get more Blacks into farming and agribusiness. Because many years we were saying, I never want to go back to the South. I want to get as far away from this farm as I can. And it's because of all of the bad history. The history of sharecropping was an ugly chapter for Black people, and especially in the South. The history of Jim Crow, separate but unequal, going through the back doors and all these things, a bad chapter for Blacks, which was part of the reason why we were leaving the farms at record numbers as well. So we have to find a way to teach our children that land ownership is the greatest tool you can possess, only second to Jesus Christ is land ownership and the ability to feed yourself. is even a greater tool. All good things come from the land. Cotton on your back for clothing, timber to build a house, clean drinking water, fresh air, all of these things come from the farm people. So buy some land, buy some land is the message I want to leave you with today. I think you're muted, Susie. Okay.
Yeah, I just realized that. Sorry. We have a few more questions for you. I know you said you couldn't stay the whole 2 hours, so through these quickly. Do you run into the myth that freedmen received 40 acres and a mule after the Civil War?
Yeah, I would like to address that. That's on General Sherman, where there was a couple of trial parcels on the islands of Georgia and others, South Carolina, and some other areas, where they were trying to do the 40 acres and a mule, and they quickly took it back. So I want to be real clear. Blacks never received 40 acres and a mule. It didn't happen. And it was one of the reasons why I used the mule, to ride hundreds of miles from my farm here in Virginia to Washington, D.C. I used a mule and wagon. I named my mules 40 Acres and Struggle, because I knew that it would raise the eyebrows and the awareness, and people would start to ask questions about, what is going on with Black farmers. So we never received it. So I want to be very, very clear about that, and a broken promise. And the $5 billion so far for Black farmers is, as I speak to you, is a broken promise by the government. We haven't found a way around it to get the resources to the farmers. It's always an uphill battle, and it's always a struggle when you put the word Black and money and compensation or land in the same sentence. It gets ugly real quick.
Thank you for explaining that. The next question is, I'm surprised you can still be hopeful after all you've been through for yourself and on behalf of the country's Black farmers. You've obviously been fighting within the system. I'm wondering if you had experience working with food co-ops, which theoretically can operate outside the system.
Well, the problem isn't, and this is what I want to be very, very clear. Our problem isn't the ability to grow the food. Our problem is the ability to get a fair price at the local buying stations, where I've seen grain from my own farm be docked 80 cents a bushel. It came out the same field. So they had a white driver driving, my father-in-law driving the truck, who is white, to the grain elevator, who got market price. I told him how good the grain looked. And my farm worker, Ernest Lambert, came behind him in another truck, and they wanted to dock him 80 cents a bushel. The grain came from the same farm, from the same field. That's what we have to fix in America if we want to help Black farmers survive. So I want to be real clear. It's not our ability to grow it, or we have to get a fair price for the crop, and we have to have access to credit. Access to credit, I didn't talk about it much in my talk, is a major problem for Black farmers. The top 10 banks, it was also the banks who came out and spoke out against the $5 billion, that they thought it would be harmful to banks if Black farmers received the $5 billion. So we had the banks against us, we had Black farmers against us. So much work to do, and so little time to do it, it looks like. So I want to be clear. We can produce anything. It's not, a co-op, and people think farmers markets. All of these things are great. They add to the farmer's bottom line. But if you're a 3 commodity farmer like I am, the farmer's market will help my bottom line, but it won't pay my equipment note at the end of the year, and it won't pay my yearly mortgage at the end of the year. I have to have a successful one of the 3 commodity payouts, such as a corn, a wheat, soybeans, and a beef cattle. One of those things have to hit in order for me to make those mortgage payments. But I don't want to belittle the idea of farmers markets. These are great concepts. I want people to understand that. They add to the bottom line, but they don't fix the whole problem that we have, which is access to all of the other markets that we have to be successful at in order to pay our mortgages.
Okay, thank you for that. That's good to know. The next question is, did the Black Farmers Association ever consider a nationwide boycott of PepsiCo products and start by notifying churches to get involved? We have no idea. We have no idea what these companies are doing. I'm still amazed that Blacks have to try 5 times harder than any other groups to receive equity in any form.
We did formally call for a boycott last week of PepsiCo, and they can go to our website, blackfarmers.org, to read about the boycott and circulate the formal press release out to your colleagues, churches, and ask them to support the boycott. It's people like you that can help us get the word out. We have to have friends and partners like you and caring people like you. If you want to change bad, you have to add some good. So we need good people like you to help stomp out the, and we have to put the word out. We have to notify our community, our church leaders, our civic groups. Charlottesville, I didn't talk about this. Charlottesville has always been great to me. My time spent there, for all of my friends that are watching from Charlottesville, I love you and thank you for your support. I know there's a few special friends on here that that's watching. And when I ran for Congress, I lost twice in the 5th Congressional District, but it was always Charlottesville, Virginia that really went over and above in my 2 campaigns for Congress. And I've never said this publicly, but thank you for everybody who voted for me. And thank you for everybody that believed in me from the Charlottesville and Albemarle County area who've just been dynamic. And we just need more areas of the country to look and act like Charlottesville and Albemarle, and maybe we could fix PepsiCo and the United States Department of Agriculture.
I believe you already touched on this a little, expanded on this a little bit, but can you speak more about the role of credit and government subsidies for small farmers in the U.S.?
Well, first of all, the subsidy payment isn't credit. It could be it's an item such as NRCS, Natural Resources and Conservation. It could be where the country experienced a drought, and to bring the prices up with market prices, the government offsets that difference in the form of a subsidy. Now, what's been happening is the more land you own, the more acres you have, the bigger your subsidy. So that's why when I spoke about the $1 million farmers, and to look at the disparate figures, go to the Environmental Working Group.org, acronyms EWG, and you can look at any farmer in this country, type their name in, and you can see how many subsidies this person, or how much subsidy this person has received over the course of 10 years or so. So I want people to understand the subsidy part isn't the credit part. But to address the credit issue in this country, the top 10 banks have not been friendly to Black farmers and extending credit to Black farmers. I was on a show with NPR, and the farmer says, I don't have any problem with credit, access to credit. The banks come to my farm and compete for my business. I've been a farmer 39 years. I have 1,600 acres in Mecklenburg County, scattered about in different farms. But never once has a banker drove down my driveway and said, Board, we want your business. We want grant your farm operating loan or reorganize your debt. Never once has the bank done that to me. But this farmer says it happens to him every year out in the Midwest. So again, it's a clear difference of what I've been describing to you, black versus white in this country. And some people are going to say, well, the black farmers are just small farmers. They're bad farmers. And I've read all this stuff. We're not bad farmers. We're very, very good farmers. And Sylvester Warren would describe us as a master farmer. I said, Mr. Warren, what is that? He said, a farmer who can farm every year on very limited resources. And that's what we are. So we're out here farming. We don't have the access to credit the way the white farmers do. Machinery and equipment is ragged. John Deere is another company that I didn't talk about that we have major problems with, where they service black farmers slower than they do white farmers. And I've experienced that in my own home county as well, where they will tell you, well, we have to go service this farmer because he's a bigger farmer, and we have to make sure he's continuing to farm. Well, what about me? I got debt, and I deserve the same service as this other farmer do. If I call before him, come service me before him. It's real simple, people. It's really called right and wrong here, and these companies continue to dog us the way that John Deere is. I believe they're the third or fourth largest agricultural lender in the world. John Deere is, and they too get an F. And we've been boycotting John Deere and PepsiCo to do better for black farmers. We got to have cutting edge equipment the way the white farmers do. They have to make that equipment readily available the way that they do to white farmers. John Deere has never presented a lawnmower at our annual conference. But I see him at all of these other conferences displaying equipment and showing the farmers what this cutting edge technology does. And for people that are watching and don't understand why this is important, if you own a John Deere tractor after the year 2010 and it breaks down, the only person that can restart that tractor is a John in court to change that. But my tractor sits there, my combine will sit there until that John Deere technician come down my driveway to read the codes and fix it. So they have a patent on their software that does that. So once the machine throws a code, the machine cuts off, and it can't be restarted by me or anybody else. Only the person that has the software, which is John Deere, to restart that.
So as you were talking about that, a question popped into my head, and I would like to know, what is the average size of the black farmer's land these days?
Yes, I can answer that for you. The average size of a black farmer's farm is between 50 and 100 acres. The average age of a black farmer is 61 years of age. The demographics are from the Virginia Delmarva area, all the way down the southeastern corridor of the United States, all the way around by Texas, Oklahoma. Then the numbers are real sporadic in the Midwestern state, a lot smaller. And then about 2,000 black farmers in the state of California. Our biggest states are Mississippi and Alabama as far as our membership.
Thank you for that. The next question is, I'm going to ask you their question, and then I'm going to also add to it. Are there other companies that you can share that continue to intentionally exclude the black farmers from representation at the table? And what I'm adding to that question is, are there companies that have gone out of the way to include black farmers that we should support?
The first part of the question, I would say Del Monte is doing a very, very good job of working with black farmers. Ben and Jerry's dairy products are doing a good job of working with black farmers. And most of the other companies aren't. I would say Bayer gets an F. They've done a little outreach to Black farmers to show them how to use these very, very harmful chemicals. The seed companies aren't doing what they should to make sure that we get good seed, healthy seed, and on time. That's a major issue as well. So you can look at all of those. ConAgra is not doing anything to work with us. And I want people to know that we've been inviting these companies for years to be our partners and come and hear from our members. We're still contributing to the American fabric of agriculture in this country. And like you heard me talk about it earlier, these are very, very skilled farmers. And we grow everything from sugar to corn to rice. We're out there in all these, producing all of these commodities. But I want people to know it's been an uphill battle and it's very, very tough. We need these companies to make it, and we need for them to treat us right in order to make it. We need for the government to stop having commissions. Every 4 years they announce a new commission. When 30 years the problem has been the same. Do some implementation rather than another commission and listening. You're wasting people's time. Secretary Vilsack is the longest serving secretary in American history. He's heard from me more than any other secretary. He knows what the problems are and is at USDA. The American people want you to do at USDA. I wanted to see a new secretary, someone with fresh blood, a fresh face, and some galls and gumption, like my grandmother would say, to make some hard decisions. Sometimes hard decisions make some people unhappy, but in the long run, it makes things better. So you got to have a person like that at USDA.
Does the National Black Farmers Association have a credit union to manage their own loans?
Man, somebody hit the nail with the hammer. We're actually working on that. So hopefully we'll have some meeting with the OCC, the head of OCC this week, to talk about laying the groundwork for a credit union. And I think that will help a lot of the issues that we have. So hopefully maybe next year I can come back and tell you how that's coming along. And thank you for that question.
Do you have any recommendations for young Black aspiring farmers in Virginia, or any resources that you'd suggest to help them get started, such as grants, land grants, training, network groups, etc.?
Yes, the first piece first. If you want to find out all of the programs and what we're doing to work with farmers, go to both of those websites that I spoke to you about, nationalblackfarmers.org, all spelled out, and blackfarmers with the S.org. I will tell you about all of the programs and where to get these funds from, and all of the agencies, and all of those things are all spelled out right there on our website. So I want people to go there, get the information, and get involved. For young people, I want you to become farmers. I want you to become stewards of the land. I want you to get into agribusiness and be visible in these companies that I spoke about. In order to change the place, you need fresh faces we need young people at those companies. So I want them to get involved in farming and agribusiness, but I want them to know to be a farmer. One, it's not easy. It's hard work, but it's the most rewarding work you could ever do is to be a farmer.
I know we've talked about several corporations that discriminate against African-American farmers, but is there a published list of corporations on any of those websites or your website or anything?
Well, maybe I put all this in writing so people can see. So I think that out of this whole session, I think that's something that I can act on, and we can act on at the NBFA, because you need to know who's working with us and who's not. So that's something I'm personally, I just wrote down my own bullet from that question. I think that people need to know what companies are working with us and what companies aren't. So maybe we come up with like a report card and grade some of these companies so that you can look at it. So that may be a suggestion that I would like to put in place. So thank you for that question.
That's a great idea. Sorry. Are there internships for young people that want to build careers in farming and the business aspect?
Yeah, I would say yes. And we have a great program director. She happens to be my wife too. Her name is Kara Bort. Matter of fact, this lady is fantastic. She answers the phone, and day or night, she can tell you all about that. And the number to call is 804-691-8528. Again, that's 804-691-8528. And I know she'll walk you through that process. She also is a person who is heading up a scholarship program. We have an amazing scholarship program, a full ride, people, laptop, your travel, everything. All you have to do is meet the criteria and keep that. When I came out of high school, I would have been all on it, both hands and feet. But go out there and share the information, one, about the scholarship program, and also interns and all of that stuff and how it works.
Awesome. Well, thank you for providing opportunities for future generations.
Thank you.
And if there's no more questions, I'm going to thank Dr. Boyd for this great conversation that we've had today. This has just been really informative and really amazing, and I've learned so much. I hope that you all have learned a lot as well. Again, thank you, Dr. Boyd. And we hope that you all will visit both Riverview Farm and the Yancey Community Center in Esmont. I'm going to give Ed just a moment to speak because he has an event that he would like to talk about that's coming up. So, Ed, it's all you.
Yes, Dr. Boyd, first I want to say I have kind of like chills running up and down my arms just from the information that you shared. You're anointed to do what you do in terms of farmer, but you're also blessed as a gifted orator as well. And thank you so much. Before I go to what Susie mentioned about the upcoming, could you tell us, are you like a one commodity farmer, or do you have multiple products that you farm?
Thank you. I didn't talk a whole lot about my own farming operation. Again, I'm a fourth generation farmer. I was trained as a cotton farmer and tobacco farmer, and peanuts were the commodities that I was trained on as a young farmer. Then I started raising just tobacco, and then later on I became the three commodity farmer that I spoke about: corn, wheat, soybeans, and today we raise those three commodities, and we have 100 head of beef cattle. So those are the commodities, and we dabble in a little bit of everything. My wife's going to kill me if I don't say something about the work we're doing around hemp. I didn't talk about hemp during the presentation because I wanted to try to stick to a lot of the historical stuff, but we're doing some work with hemp. We have other livestock as well. We have some poultry, some pigs. We got everything at the farm, but the three major commodities I spoke about pay most of the bills, and the beef cattle pay a lot of our bills. Everything else is just things that we love on the farm. We have goats and horses. And I would like to invite, you guys are in driving distance. We'd love for you to come out and visit our farm and spend some time with us. I'd be glad to show you around and show you some of the work that we're doing.
Yeah, well, we are always taking field trips from the Yancey Community Center. So Riverview and Yancey can get together and drive down the South Hill and take a look at your place maybe before 2022 is over.
Please come down.
See how it's done.
Yes,
yeah, we have my mother's maiden name is Gardner, and we lived on Gardner Lane for a long time in Asmont. But right now we're doing a community garden at Yancey, so I never knew what a box garden was, right? But anyway, we're learning. We got 17 boxes out there.
Right, and I would like to recognize Andre and Carlton Luck too. I spoke at the Reverend Luck's church many years ago, and we became friends working at the Omni Hotel. I worked there as a security guard. I did everything, people, to make it, and I'm proud of my history. And I just want to thank those families and you for your friendship over the years. And the Luck
It's a
family.
strong friendship. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Andre. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, I was talking to John and just trying to, I apologize sometimes for this because, Esmont's a small place in Southern Albemarle. And John said, I know where that is. And I'm like, you do? He was like, yeah, I do. So thank you so much. I did want to mention that our partnership with Riverview Farm Ivy Creek Foundation will continue into the month of April. Susie or Sue, you all please step up, but we are honoring the life of Hugh Carr, Mary Carr, and Conley Greer. They took over a farm that Hugh Carr kind of, as Dr. Boyd mentioned, he was born into slavery, but he ended up with the farm. And over time, with his son-in-law and his daughter, it got up to 200 acres. There's quite a story on how they actually went in and out of the different products that they were selling. He had multiple revenue streams. And to have this barn that was a prototype barn back in the 1930s, 40s?
1930s.
1930, and now being nationally recognized is a big deal. So we will be extending invites to the public. We're having descendants of the Carr and Greer family come in that day. As it's already been designated as a nationally historic place, but it's going to be a formal part to that. And we're looking for a lot of people to come out to Riverview Farm as we celebrate this great honor and distinction. And thank you, Dr. Boyd, for letting us share a little bit more of an hour of your time. And, we're just wishing you all the best. We will stay in touch and certainly hope that on Sunday afternoon, April the 3rd, at 1 o'clock, I believe we'll be starting that you can make your way back up to Charlottesville, and we can just honor you as well for all that you're doing with this wonderful work for the National Black Farmers Association. Yeah, Susie, if you want to close us out, that'll be great too. And thank you so much, appreciate it. Yes.
For the folks who have joined us for the first time, I just want to let you all know that we have an Ivy Talk every month. And March is Women's History Month, and we will be focusing on historic women from Albemarle County for that talk. Also, after this is over, you'll be receiving an email from us that is a survey about this Ivy Talk. If you would just take 5 minutes to fill out that 5-question survey and give us some feedback, we would really appreciate it. And also, if you have enjoyed this talk and would like to support what the Ivy Creek Foundation is doing for our community, please consider going to our website and becoming a donor today. And thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you have a great rest of your day and you get to enjoy some of the beautiful sunshine out there. So thank you so much. Ooh.